Hello there and welcome. In this video I got you 5 good things versus 5 bad things about Endless Legend 2. In this review I want to share my experiences with you that I have gathered since the early access release, and while I'm recording this the game has been only down for 2 days on the market, so this is a very fresh impression and I hope this will help you out in making yourself a picture about the game, because it deserves your attention. That's the very first thing that I want to say about it. We're going to start with one positive and then follow up with a negative and vice versa the whole time. So the first positive thing, the factions play really nicely different from one another and give you the typical feeling you expect from an Endless game. You know, when you've been playing Endless Space and the like, you know that Amplitude really loves fleshing out the factions and giving them their whole unique gameplay. This works already really nicely here. The factions have really different gameplay mechanics, and there is enough difference that you basically can have a playthrough on each faction and you basically have different gameplay experiences, which is amazingly great. This is just their strong point and they did well on that. Which brings me to the first negative point on all of that, though. The problem is that every one of these factions has their story on the planet. If you are like me and liking to retry things and restart things quite often until you just get the right approach to things, things get really quickly repetitive because the story is currently really basically always the same on each gameplay, and I dislike that a little bit because you can solve that more elegantly, you can give more randomization into that, and I'd love to see that during the early access period, that there's just different things happening when you're starting the same faction and not just the same timeline over and over again. I assume that this is something that will be changed. We'll see about that. So, next one, a positive. Monsoon and tidefall mechanics are fun. The fact that the weather changes constantly and makes things happen on the map is just awesome. You have constantly changing mechanics, meaning that at times the world is open for exploration, at times the world expands and gives you new adventure sites. There's always something new happening on the map, and this is, as far as the PvE experience goes, really amazing. I don't know how well this meshes into PvP. I even might think that this might have its own problems and might be not even as much fun as the PvE version is, but when you play it as a story that you experience and that you live through, it's really good thing. And yeah, here, unlike the story, which I was criticizing before, the replayability is very high, because you never know what is below the ocean and what kind of map lurks beyond that, and I like that. It really entertains me well and makes every run I retry a completely new and fun experience. So, which brings me to the second negative thing. Man, the user interface is something I don't know. Many people have already been talking about it, but be it the beginning on the city where the resources are so small that I need to zoom in like that to actually see them well, or the building menu here looks somehow, I don't know, it is just like everything is weirdly all over the place, and once you know your way around it starts to become better, but I don't know, the diplomacy feels weird, and my personal impression is that too many things try to get squeezed into one screen. We have only a low amount of menus, but each menu is crassly overloaded, I feel like. This is combined with the graphics not really playing too well here. So this, for example, is an anomaly. This is where you get more resources from. This here, there's another one. This here is another anomaly. These things are actually really important and they are really hard to spot. And the list goes on with little things that make the perception of the important parts of the game unnecessarily difficult. For example, this is something we can collect. These golden swirly things are just not just not distinct enough. So I think these are all things that can be easily fleshed out. But at the current point, I really gotta say, I had rarely such a hard time to get into a well-made game due to the problematic user interface. The last time I had such problems was when I was playing Chinese games that were translated to the English market. So at that point, I really hope that we just get more different menus, less is more, and a little bit more, I don't know, clarity about things, easier spottable things. Well, user interface is a difficult thing. Now, let's move on over to a new thing. Number three, a good thing, the positive thing. This game is running smooth. Seriously, the turns are going so fast comparatively. I was playing a lot of Age of Wonders 4 lately, and that game doesn't run so smooth. It has all the problems that long-term paradox titles have, but here you press end turn and boom, you're on the next turn. This is amazing. I haven't seen that kind of quick turn processing since a while. And since I hate waiting for my turns to be processed, like almost every game does, this is something that really stands out for me as a positive. The performance of the game is top notch, really. So, although I gotta say, at this point, it's not a separate thing. It is quite bug ridden at this point. The smoothness breaks down when you get to the later stages of the game, but I don't want to criticize that separately because, bugs are an early access thing. Instead, let's move on to the third real negative part. I don't like combat in this game. I can't sugarcoat it for some odd reason. The combat map just doesn't kick it for me. So, for one, I find it extremely odd that we can go for all manner of auto resolve on the map everywhere, but once we enter a dungeon, we have to manually battle them. I really hope that they change this, because every one of us who likes to play this more as an auto battler will hate dungeons henceforth. And, I don't think that this is just a good decision for me personally. The other thing is, combat happens via a map that is roughly reflecting the provinces. So there's strategical advantages of each tile, and there's different troop types and everything. But I gotta say, the numbers are right off the get-go weirdly high. There are variances in the damage which I don't like, and most of the combat, at least in the earlier phases of the game, plays a lot like rock, paper, scissors, where you just have to put the proper unit type versus the proper weakness and you win. There is not so much distinctiveness between the units, and well, maybe it does become better later down the road, but I don't know, for some reason the combat just didn't quite get me. I felt like it is mostly because I didn't feel enough distinct difference between the different types of units. For me, I felt like mostly the difference was either infantry, range, or juggernaut or swarm, and this is basically really everything it boils down to. And on top of that, heroes don't really convince me at this point either. This is for two reasons. For one, we only have 4 equipment slots, and one of them is a consumable slot, and these consumables really get consumed, unlike other modern games where consumables are just something that you can only use once per battle. These are gone after you use them, which I find a weird decision, because this is something I enjoyed so much that most modern games that I've been playing have adapted with consumables to the point where we all agreed to the point that a consumable is an item that can use once per battle and not just once forever. I don't like that. And the other thing is, please give us more slots. I quickly accrued way more gear than I have heroes. It's constantly the wrong gear, and then my heroes only have such a limited amount of gear slots. It doesn't help either that I really had trouble with understanding where intuition and determination go into my build. It feels like I really miss my intelligence, dexterity, strength, and basically easily understandable stats. Maybe that's a me problem. The other thing that I really didn't like, the skill tree heroes feel so same. I haven't felt a bit of a real big difference between the heroes. I hope they worked that out. I mean, if I remember Age of Wonders 4 hero system when they released it, it was nowhere near where it is right now, which is much better. Anyways, gotta say, combat and heroes were the two things that let me down the most right after the user interface. I've been auto-resolving most of the battles because I don't know. Most of the time I just set up a formation and I kept whacking until the battle is finally over. And that is just not dynamic enough for my taste. Now, number 4, positive. The gameplay loop feels really good. It is fun to expand my empire. It is fun to build new cities. It is fun to manage my populations. It is fun to grab new territories and attach them to my cities and find out which spots are the best. I like the whole economy game of Endless Legend 2 a lot. It is really, really fun to play, and due to the point that we have constantly something new to discover, we have a good pressure to keep armies going. There's really good stuff happening left and right and everywhere, and playing the game itself is fun and captivating, and you constantly get pushed forward by how the game develops. This is really well made, and I hope they keep up the pace of that because this is where the good stuff lies of the game. Number 4, for another negative, it is a short negative, but I gotta say it. This game is really costly for an early access. When I saw the pricing, I was frankly surprised because in an early access version we usually get to buy in a little bit cheaper because we are beta testing the game. Going in with a full price of 50 bucks here in Germany at least, I was surprised about that. I didn't see that coming, and I gotta say, I feel as if it also hinders the game a little bit. But now it is like it is. You can't. They won't make it cheaper like that. So sales are way to go. But even now, during a sale, 40 bucks, I find that a tall order, especially due to the fact that it's early access. I don't want to say the game ain't worth that money. Please don't get me wrong. I just find that if we are participating into an early access, into an uncompleted game with lots of bugs and all these things, it feels a little bit weird that we don't get compensation of a lower price. I really am a big fan of games that are raised in price when the early access phase is over. Now, let's move on over to something positive again. Number 5, world design is superb. Be it the cutscenes that happen, be it the weirdly alien world that is really looking gorgeous. When you zoom in, you really see that the textures are made with love. The music is amazing. The sound design also. I really like how the items here look and all. Gotta say, it's easy to fall in love with this planet just by the visual aesthetics and how everything looks like. It is really lovely. Gotta say, this is something that convinced me from the game right from the get-go, and I like the fact that the mixture of fantasy and science fiction here leads to a truly alien but beautiful gameplay that, well, I gotta say, it is sometimes hard to discern one thing from another due to that, but it also looks really nice. And now the last negative thing before I wrap it up in a summary here. I feel like this game has a lot of rough edges still to go on, and that is the most negative thing for me. Everything feels a little bit rushed and incomplete, be it the fact that the user interface of cities really feels terrible at that point, albeit that combat really also feels very generic, and the writing of many dialogues is really jarring. You know, some parts of the general storytelling are fun to read and fun to experience, but some of the dialogues, I wondered who was writing that, because it doesn't feel like fantasy. It does feel like I'm talking to to some hot dog salesperson in the metropolis or something like that. It doesn't feel like fantasy at times, and sometimes it is very coherent with the storytelling and everything. My personal verdict was, I feel as if they have had too much of a focus on the dialogues. The dialogues are much less captivating as the regular story writing is. That's just my personal verdict. Alright, where does Endless Legend 2 stand right now? It's awesome. It's a great game. It's just a shame that it ain't finished yet. We can't play multiplayer yet. We don't have the last faction yet. We don't have custom factions yet. But beyond that, the game offers you a really, really awesome game experience. And compared to other early access games in this genre that I played, it feels very complete, except for the many things that I criticized in the video that feel like need just the final polish over that. So I really hope that that Endless Legend 2 will receive the polish that it requires. But at this moment, I gotta say, jumping into it is not a bad thing at all. The most bad thing is that you have to get past how to control the game a bit. This is something that really took me way too many hours to understand how everything works. And yeah, like I said, I don't know. Combat doesn't really strike me as the captivating pastime activity as I had it on other games. But the Economy and Empire game, on the other hand, are superb. So hopefully something changes about that. I wish for more distinct differences between the units beyond their base types. You know, that would really make a lot of things, because currently the units of each faction don't feel like they are that much of a different thing. Once they evolve, once they go into the higher ranks, you feel the differences, but the first 50 and 100 turns feel really boring in my opinion. And even after upgrading, as you see there, this be more. Anyways, I hope that this video was giving you an impression. I can wholeheartedly recommend it, but at that pricing, there's other games that are complete at this moment, and they are a strong competition to the game. I really am looking forward to the development process of Endless Legend 2, because I gotta say, the dynamic map is one of the most fun things that I had since a while. So let me know what you think. Leave a comment, leave a like, leave a subscribe, and consider donating to the channel. Every little gesture of help is much appreciated. And of course, many thanks go out to all of you who are helping. And of course, thanks for watching this video. Hope you appreciated. I definitely appreciated the time and attention of yours, and hope to see you next time.